Hello everyone, this is Deepak Gupta signing again on this platform of College Dekho Learn on YouTube. And today we'll be taking up one of the applications of marginal costing technique where we will be deciding whether a business should accept or should not accept any export order in addition to its already existing domestic demand. What I'm saying कि हर बिजनेस की एक डोमेस्टिक डिमांड है। डोमेस्टिक का मतलब लोकल कंट्री की, विद इन द कंट्री कुछ डिमांड है। और होता क्या है कि या तो जो लोकल बिजनेस डिमांड है, जो डोमेस्टिक डिमांड है, उसमें कोई डाउनफॉल हो। तो अगर उस लोकल बिजनेस डिमांड में कोई डाउनफॉल है तो जो एग्जिस्टिंग सेल्स है उससे आपकी यूनिट सोल्ड कम हो जाएंगी। या फिर दूसरा ऑप्शन ये हो सकता है कि उन जो एग्जिस्टिंग सेल्स क्वांटम था उसको मेंटेन करने के लिए यू विल हैव टू कट योर सेलिंग प्राइस। In both the cases, there will be a dent on the profitability of the business. So, what the company or business will want that they should explore the outside market. They want to export the goods, and they believe that this export orders will bring the overall increase in the quantity sold, which will reduce the overall cost of production, and hence the profitability of the business will increase. Another option or another scenario can be that there is an expansion in the demand, or sorry, I should say there is an expansion in the production capacity of the business. यानी कि पहले के मुकाबले बिजनेस ने अपनी प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी बढ़ा ली है, जिस कारण से एग्जिस्टिंग डिमांड जो डोमेस्टिक उसको तो कैटर कर ही रहे हैं वो, लेकिन क्योंकि उनके पास एक्स्ट्रा यूनिट्स प्रोड्यूस्ड हैं, उनको एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए, उनको और प्रॉफिट जनरेट करने के लिए दे वांट टू मूव ऑन टू द फॉरेन मार्केट, जिससे कि उनकी प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ जाए. So whatever is the scenario, we will discuss one of the cases through this question. The primary objective is that whether an export order. So normally what happens, because export market is quite competitive, so it may happen that to accept an order of export, you may have to get it on a lower price. तो what can happen कि आप डोमेस्टिक प्राइस पर जिस रेट पर माल बेच रहे हो उससे कम पर शायद आपको एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर एक्सेप्ट करना पड़े. अब कॉमन सेंस ये कहता है कि अगर एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर का जो प्राइस है, सेल प्राइस है, वो डोमेस्टिक के मुकाबले कम है तो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कैसे बढ़ेगी. बट we have to understand through these calculations that sometimes the export orders, even if accepted at lower price, they will increase the contribution of the business, and because the fixed cost will remain same, or even if there is an increase in the fixed cost due to such export orders known as incremental fixed cost, then we will compare this incremental fixed cost with the incremental contribution, and if that incremental contribution is more than the incremental fixed cost, then the overall profitability of the business will improve by the acceptance of such export order. So the overall scenario that comes to be that if any export order acceptance increases the net contribution, or such acceptance of the export order gives you incremental contribution which will improve the profitability of the business, then such export orders will be accepted, otherwise they won't be accepted. So we have to understand this whole scenario from the numerical point of view, and for that we have framed this question especially for you. Such questions you will find in almost all the major books that are available in the market, and hence we will be able to understand the overall concept of export order acceptance through this. So now if I come to the nitty-gritties or details of the question, so here the question says that the company, so I will use the highlighter to highlight the important points, that the company manufactures 10,000 units. So these 10,000 units are the existing production at a cost of rupees 4. This cost of rupees 4, that is the total cost is 40,000. So the total cost is 40,000 for the existing production. And if you will see here the analysis of the cost, the analysis of the cost has been given for per 10,000 units as material 15,000, wages 11,000, fixed overheads and variable overheads. If you do the total of all these four, this total comes out to be rupees 40,000. So before we understand the question further, the total cost of producing 10,000 units is 40,000 with details like material, wages, fixed overheads and variable overheads. And as you all know, the direct material cost and direct labor cost, which constitute the prime cost, is always a variable cost, and the overheads here are especially given. So this will constitute the total variable cost. So here the total variable cost will be 15,000 of direct material cost, 11,000 of direct labor cost and 6,000 of variable overheads. So this 32,000 is the total variable cost for 10,000 units. And as we have already understood that variable cost is always constant per unit and it fluctuates. It increases with the increase in output and it decreases with the decrease in output. Therefore, we always calculate or give importance to the variable cost per unit. So that variable cost per unit comes out to be rupees 3.20. So we can analyze this data that the existing production is of 10,000 units with total variable cost of 32,000 rupees, total fixed cost of the balance 8,000 rupees, and the variable cost per unit is rupees 3.20 that we are able to analyze from this discussion. Now, if we move further in the question, that there is a home market for consuming the entire volume of production at the sale price of 4.25. Means all these units are sold in currently in the domestic market. तो ये सारी की सारी जो है अभी डोमेस्टिक मार्केट है, यानी कि आप इंडिया में सारा का सारा माल बेच रहे हैं, ये सारी की सारी डोमेस्टिक मार्केट है. और उस डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में सेलिंग प्राइस जो है वो रुपीज़ 4.25 है. इट मीन्स वेरिएबल कॉस्ट पर यूनिट 3.20 है, कंट्रीब्यूशन पर यूनिट 1.05 रुपीज़ है. टोटल कंट्रीब्यूशन will be equal to 10,000 into 1.05, that is 11,000. That will be coming out to be 10,500 rupees. और यहाँ से माइनस करेंगे आप टोटल फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट विच इज 8,000 rupees. So currently the company is having a profit of 2,500 rupees. So we can summarize इस पूरे वर्किंग नोट के डाटा से कि डोमेस्टिक मार्केट इज फॉर 10,000 यूनिट्स with the selling price of 4.25, variable cost of 3.20, total fixed cost of 8,000 rupees and existing profit of 2,500 rupees. That is how the company is performing at the moment. Now we will again go to the question to see what else it wants from us. So I am changing the highlighter to just understand that now the data will change because this was all existing. Now this is saying for the next year. So we can always change the year from here. ये फिगर कुछ भी हो सकती है. तो इस फिगर को अगर मैं यहाँ कि ये जो एग्जिस्टिंग डाटा है लेट्स से ये 2021 का है और ये जो एस्टिमेटेड डाटा है 2022 का है. What is saying in the next year, so we are deleting this old year and using the latest year, that in the coming year 22 there is a fall in the demand from the home market. यानी कि मार्केट में डिमांड कम है. अब डिमांड अगर कम है, it means I said earlier in the beginning, either you won't be able to sell 10,000 units, or if you want to sell 10,000 units, then it will be at a lower price. What is happening? It can consume only 10,000 units at the rate of 3.72. It means अगर प्रपोज देखा जाए, यानी कि एस्टिमेटेड या अंदाज़ा लगा रहे हैं, तो एस्टिमेटेड में यूनिट तो 10,000 है, but selling price will only be 3.72. Variable cost will remain same because nothing is mentioned. Hence, the contribution per unit will be 0.52, and hence the total contribution will be equal to 0.52 for 10,000 units, that is coming out to be 5,200 rupees. और यहाँ से अगर हम लोग माइनस करेंगे टोटल फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट जो हमारी 8,000 रुपये है, तो कंपनी जो है वो लॉस में आ जाएगी, लॉस ऑफ 2,800 रुपीज. It will be a loss of 2,800 rupees. So if the company is not able to increase its demand of the product, it will jump from a profit of 2,500 to a loss of 2,800, which will have an adverse impact of 5,300 over the profitability of the business. So there must be some reason out for this. So what the saying is that now if they explore, so that is from where our funda comes into play, that if they want to explore the foreign market, then this market can consume 10,000 of the units at a price of 3.55. It means you are trying to receive, you are trying to decide about the acceptance of a foreign order, which is huge, almost double the size of the existing domestic demand. Existing demand is 10,000 units, and you are looking for a export order of 20,000 units. It means your total output will be 10,000. It means your total output will be 10,000 domestic plus 20,000 foreign demand. But this foreign demand will be only at a price of 3.55. So this expected price of 3.55 is always more than the variable cost of the product. So before we move into all the details, we have to understand that if the selling price is more than the variable cost, then there is always a concept of positive contribution, and this positive contribution will either result in increased profits or it will reduce the existing losses, and both the scenarios are good. It means all sale orders in addition to your existing orders, if acceptable at a price which is more than the variable cost, then they are always acceptable because they will bring in extra contribution. So अगर इस क्वेश्चन में और कोई डाटा ना होता तो हम ये कहते हैं कि इस ऑर्डर को आप एक्सेप्ट कर लीजिए. बट व्हाट इज हैपनिंग कि ये पता लगा, इट इज आल्सो डिस्कवर्ड दैट फॉर एडिशनल 10,000 यूनिट्स ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट ओवर द इनिशियल, यानी कि 10,000 से हर 10,000 एक्स्ट्रा पे आपकी जो फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट है वो 10% बढ़ जाएगी. इट मीन्स दिस इंक्रीज्ड कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन इज आल्सो ब्रिंगिंग इन इंक्रीज्ड, or we should say incremental fixed cost. So we have to compare the incremental contribution with the incremental fixed cost, and if the fixed costs are more, then the export order will be rejected, and if the export order is to be accepted, it means the incremental contribution is more than the incremental fixed cost. So here what is happening, that we can have two options. One option is option 1, that is export order is rejected, and option 2 is that export order is accepted. So if we reject the export order, then the total demand If we reject the export order, then the total demand will be only 10,000 units at the price of 3.72. And if the order is accepted, then the total demand will be domestic 10,000 units at the rate 3.72, at the rate 3.72, or export demand will be 20,000 units at the rate 3.55. There will be total of 30,000 units. So if you don't accept the order, then your 3.72 minus 3.20, that is a 0.52 multiplied by 10,000 units. This 5200 will be your total contribution minus total fixed cost at the moment will be 8,000 rupees, and you will be incurring a loss of 2800 rupees. You will be incurring a loss of rupees 2800. ठीक है, बट अगर आप देख लीजिए, एक मिनट जरा पानी हल्का सा। हाँ जी, बट अगर हम एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर को एक्सेप्ट कर लें तो हमारी जो डिमांड है वो 30,000 यूनिट्स हो गई। तो 3.72 और 3.55, this is for 10,000 units and this will be for 20,000 units. This will be giving, in both the cases the variable cost has to be 3.20. It means यहाँ contribution 0.52 है 10,000 units का, और यहाँ contribution 35 पैसे है लेकिन 20,000 units का. It means your total contribution will be from here, this will be 5200, this will be 7,000, so your total contribution will be 12,200. So if you compare from here, there is an addition of 7,000, and this 7,000 is the incremental contribution. So in this case, I can write here from here that the incremental contribution will be 12,200 minus 5,200, that is 7,000 rupees. But from here we will have to deduct the fixed costs. So the total fixed cost now, जो पहले 8,000 थी, वो हर 10,000 इंक्रीज पर 10% बढ़ी. तो अगर 10,000 से 20,000 आउटपुट हुई तो वो 10% बढ़ी, और अगर 20,000 से 30,000 हुई तो वो फिर दोबारा से 10% बढ़ी, यानी कि 20% बढ़ी. So this will be 9,600 rupees. So this difference is what you call the incremental fixed cost. So there will be an incremental fixed cost, and this incremental fixed cost will be 9,600 minus 8,000, that is 1,600 rupees. So there is always a net incremental contribution. So this 5,400 denotes net incremental contribution. So whenever there is a net incremental contribution, which implies therefore the export order shall be accepted. Therefore the export order shall be accepted, as it will increase profits by 5,400. So this incremental contribution is the incremental profits, which you will see from here कि अगर हम यहाँ उसको देखें तो जो हमारा अब जो फिगर आएगी ये हमारा प्रॉफिट है, एंड दिस प्रॉफिट इज कमिंग आउट टू बी 2600 रुपीज। तो अब यह नोटिस करते हैं 2800 का लॉस 2600 के प्रॉफिट में एडजस्ट हो गया, विच इज 5400, एंड दिस 5400 इज द सेम एज दिस 5400, दैट इज इंक्रीमेंटल कंट्रीब्यूशन। तो जितना इंक्रीमेंटल कंट्रीब्यूशन है उसने प्रॉफिट बढ़ा दिया, और इसलिए 2800 का लॉस 2600 के प्रॉफिट में एडजस्ट हो गया। तो एक्सपोर्ट ऑर्डर शैल बी एक्सेप्टेड बिकॉज इट विल इंक्रीज प्रॉफिट बाय 5400, एंड देयरफॉर जो लॉस था, द लॉस ऑफ 2800 रुपीज विल बी कन्वर्टेड, बदल जाएगा, will be converted to a profit of rupees 2600, that is a net gains of 5400. So therefore, if we analyze this question, that even though the total cost of the product which was shown, the total cost of the product which was shown to be rupees 4, so we don't have to take a decision based on this fictitious figure of rupees 4, because when we use the marginal costing as our technique, then we understand that the cost which is to be used for decision making is the incremental cost, and incremental cost is the cost which increases due to the change in the output, and which is primarily the variable cost, and hence this variable cost per unit was the deciding factor. Therefore, when the export order was available at a price of 3.55 above 3.20, hence in the first look it looks profitable and acceptable. But in addition to such variable cost, there can always be incremental fixed cost, which in this case was 10%, which in this case was 10% for every 10,000 units. So for jump of export order, that is the output will increase from 10,000 to 30,000 units, the fixed cost will increase by rupees 1600. So this 1600 is also a kind of incremental cost, variable cost. So in addition to this cost of 3.20, this additional cost of 1600 was also playing a huge part. And by using both the cost and by comparing them with the incremental profit, incremental contribution, we can always decide whether the export order should be accepted or not. There is another way of doing it, that the variable cost of the export order was 3.20 per unit, and 1600 was the incremental fixed cost, which if divided by 20,000 will come out to be 0.8 paisa. So therefore effectively अगर इसको यहाँ कॉस्ट में ऐड करें तो 0.08 का मतलब 3.28, ये हमारी इफेक्टिव वेरिएबल कॉस्ट है, and which is less than the selling price of 3.55, and therefore there is still a net contribution of 0.27. This is incremental contribution, and this incremental contribution multiplied by the number of units will give you a total contribution of 1500. So this is what you call total incremental contribution, which was the case as calculated earlier. So we can always go with this short format where we analyze that the acceptance of the export order will give an incremental contribution of 27 paise per unit and 5400 in total, and therefore export order is profitable because it is giving you incremental contribution, which is incremental profit. And by any of the two approaches we can always decide whether an export order should be accepted or not. So I hope this question will be of very much help to you, and this is a very important question. Whenever there is a paper of management accounting in any of the level, that is graduate or postgraduate, such a question is a quite certainty. So we hope this session was for of help to you. On this note, myself saying goodbye. See you again.